The federal government yesterday lashed out at some foreign embassies for allegedly issuing an unverified terror warning on the Federal Capital Territory (FCT), Abuja, posting clickbait and causing panic in the country. Minister of Information and Culture Alhaji Lai Mohammed delivered the disavowal at the ministerial session at the ongoing UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Week in Abuja. Mohammed said if indeed such security alert was necessary, it was for the attention of citizens of eastern countries in Nigeria and not for the Nigerian public. But the United Kingdom insisted that there was a terror alert and it was updated as having an increased threat of attack by terrorists in Nigeria's seat of power. It, however, warned the attacks on Nigeria could be indiscriminate and might affect Western interests as well as places visited by tourists. Mohammed, while responding to the development, noted that the threat of disinformation to the national and global peace and stability was glaring, saying that it undermines the trust by citizens in the system. He accused both the traditional and new media of being complicit in the spread of misrepresentation. Dr. Bati?
Well, in the last less than a week, we've had two security alerts. The first from the U.S. mission in Nigeria, the second from the U.K. mission, the UK High Commission. And both, embassies were saying that, look, there is a very serious threat, particularly in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, and also in parts of the country, and that people should be careful. The UK High Commission release, in fact, identified Borno, Kogi, Kano, and other parts of Nigeria where, there could be attacks. And the two embassies, in fact, listed places. They talked about government facilities. They talked about, international organizations. They talked about places of religious worship, tourist centers, and all of that. And of course, as a result of that, we understand the panic that Alhaji Lai Mohammed was referring to, that businesses were shut down, that persons changed their travel plans because of that terror alert. But I think, it's become very common now for the Nigerian government and its spokespersons. Every time there is a statement from an international agency or international partners to just dismiss it and say it is not true. Okay? I thought that a better approach would have been first to engage those embassies to see, in fact, if the Nigerian government or if those embassies will be willing to share intelligence with the Nigerian authorities, which will assist, greatly in preventing that kind of risk. Second, Alhaji Lai Mohammed has been quoted as saying that, even if there was a terror alert, it's meant for the citizens of those countries and not for Nigeria as well. Nigerians are also human beings too. The ordinary Nigerian is not bothered about whether it's coming from the UK embassy or it's coming from the US embassy. All they want to know, once they have that information, is to raise the question, what is government doing? It is also instructive to know that the political parties, the presidential candidates and their spokespersons took this statement by those two embassies seriously. And on the basis of that, they said, well, they are not going to suspend their campaigns, traveling around the country or their rallies. That what is important is for the Nigerian authorities to provide security and ensure that nobody is attacked in the course of campaigns. After all, during the signing of the peace accord, the Inspector General of Police had assured the political parties that the Nigerian police force is up to the task. As for clickbait, yes, there Alhaji Lai Mohammed was referring to social media and disinformation, where these days it's very difficult to control what people discuss. If the UK embassy says there's a terror alert, there's a risk of violence from Boko Haram and also the Islamic State, and the ordinary man gets to hear about it, of course, he will see it, as something that he should share. So he says it's disinformation. How is it disinformation? What efforts have the authorities made to check the veracity of the information? Is the Minister of Information of Nigeria accusing the US mission and the UK High Commission of lying, of telling lies by issuing terror alert? This is not the first time a terror alert will be issued. This is what governments do on a routine basis. This is what they do, just to assist everyone to ensure that you're on your guard and that you know where you go and where you don't go at particular times. Why that information is useful for the nationals of those specific countries, the information is equally useful for others. And that is what has happened in this particular case. But if the minister is saying that the UK High Commission and the US mission in Nigeria are lying, then that's a different thing.
I mean, what the minister said is just a reflection of the lack of coordination that has heralded this government. Only yesterday, I thought the first spokesperson of the police force came out to say that they were doing drills and reassured the people that they've taken on board the reaction or the message or the terror alert by American authorities, and they were doing drills. I thought that was in the news, or maybe I missed that. Was my brain playing tricks on me? So if the police authority and the security agency had responded to the terror alerts and they had started drills to reassure people, why will the minister come again with having no empirical facts of his to counter a body of information given and just say it's clickbait? Why is the Minister of Information doing that? Alerts are no joke. I called some expatriates in Abuja and they told me that they've not been able to leave the house since weekend because everybody is monitoring the situation of things. It's not every now and then that people will just issue alerts if they don't see something. And you have the minister, if you have a superior information, why don't you put it out there and say, okay, based on DSS report, they said, oh, nothing of such. But you just dismiss the report, and our own security forces had hitherto responded to the report. The first PRO said, oh, we are doing something about it. We even saw, one or two drills. So it just shows the lack of coordination. Or didn't the minister know that the police force PRO responded to this before and talked about coordinated drills? I think it's better when we, synergize messaging, because it's just a case of flip-flop and it makes us look funny. We are not a joke. The joke is on the person that made us look funny. It's not us as Nigeria. We're a great nation. We're a nation of prospects. We're a nation of possibility. We're a nation that when people say they are security alerts, we take it on board and we do our homework to prevent happenings like that. Not by dismissing things like that with no empirical proof after the security agencies have reacted to it. So this morning it's another low. And going forward, once we have engagements like this, like Dr. Abati said, it is incumbent on the minister to synergize with all these embassies and even come out to say, based on my conversation with this XYZ should be done and get more information. And I'm sure the minister knows. We don't have to remind him that these embassies have intelligence attaches in this country. That most of the data too they gathered was on the ground. That this terror alert probably wasn't generated by some data some center somewhere in America. It was still the same intelligence attaché attached to various embassies that generated this data on ground based on their own local intelligence and sources. So what's your empirical counterpoint? And I'm hearing things like clickbait. We know there is fake news in society. We know there is. So is a terror alert by an embassy now clickbait? We'll move on to the next story. Motorists in Lagos woke up Tuesday morning to some queues at several fuel stations around the city. The queues caused some gridlock in the nation's commercial capital and left some commuters stranded. It was a similar story in other cities around the country, including the capital, Abuja. Arise correspondent Meka Moya reports.
Queues building up. Another pointer of a looming fuel crisis in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos. Some of the filling stations visited, we observed, are without fuel, including this one on Falamo. We also noticed long queues stretching into hundreds of meters and causing traffic gridlocks. Although the nation has witnessed some relative stability in the downstream sector of the petroleum industry, the latest scarcity has again raised some fears among motorists.
It's been so bad, we don't actually understand why things will happen like this in this country. Because we have everything it takes to make life much more easy for the common man. But what we are seeing now is not what we expected at all. But nevertheless, from what they are saying, I think they say they will start selling soon, and I think they had some kind of issues. According to the manager and his property team, said there are some issues, but it will be resolved.
I came here this morning. As I came out, I saw the queue every filling station I met. So I see it. Let me try this place. So it remains more for me to get the fuel. They say the fuel has finished, and we're expecting another fuel. So that's why we are waiting, and the fuel is now arrived. So we are waiting for them to discharge it and start selling.
I just drove out now. I got to for one and I wanted to buy fuel, and I found there's queues everywhere in the filling station. I'm shocked. I'm surprised.
Midway, a truck arrived at this station on Ahmadu Bello Way on Victoria Island to dispense fuel. At this station, the price still remains the same, contrary to insinuations that the recent scarcity may not be unconnected with a possible price hike. Arise crew tried to find out what could be responsible for the scarcity from some of the filling stations managers who spoke with us off camera. None, however, could explain the reason behind it. Black marketers are also having a field day to sell to any available and willing motorists. We also gathered from this man who would not want to speak with us on camera, but suggested that government needs to do more to address fuel crisis in the country. Though the country may have experienced some relative stability in fuel supply in the last 1 year, however, the lamentations from these motorists better explain how frustrated they feel waiting endlessly at filling stations. In the coming days, Nigerian fuel users, particularly motorists like these, who have been held up in the last 4 or thereabout hours in search of the elusive fuel, will be hoping that the Nigerian government, through its Nigerian Petroleum Company Limited, will find a lasting solution to this fuel crisis which has hit the nation in the last 24 hours. Mekemoye, Horizon News.
Chinedu Okorokwo, National President, Independent Petroleum Association of Nigeria, was on Newsnight where he discussed the cause of the latest scarcity.
First of all, I want to tell you that during that northern problem, a lot of motorists didn't. Now that the water,
that's the Kogi flooding. That
yes,
yes.
Now the water is receding, and the other routes have also been opened up. It's like there is now surge, so that these other areas could, get this product, especially the northern side. And, the NNPC people need to do what they call balancing, so that everywhere will start getting. But pretty soon, everything will be over. They have enough product to dispense.
But all these measures, whether taken by NNPC and whoever else, stakeholders in this sector, they all seem to be short-term, solutions.
It's short-term.
What about the long-term, the more long-term solutions? I mean, a country that's one of the 6 large exporters of oil in the world, every year, every now and again, Nigerians find themselves, this year alone, February, March, June, and here we are again, fuel scarcity.
Remember, by next year, there will be food regulation of this sector, where people will now come out and play in the big league and even the smaller league. And then NPC is saddled with all the responsibility. It's huge for them. But I think by the time they'll begin to allow people to participate, people with money in other sectors can also come in. That way, there will be a level playing ground.
All right, Dr. Bati, your take on this?
Okay, what I hear is that this is not a case of fuel scarcity. but a problem in terms of supply, unsteady supply. And the president of the independent market has also been quoted in the papers, apart from this conversation with Arise News, to say that the major problem is the flooding. When we had that flood problem in Kogi State and the River Niger, the River Benue, went beyond its banks, and we saw the pictures of the devastation. One of the major challenges that immediately came up about 3 weeks ago was fuel scarcity in the Federal Capital Territory. And the argument was that, look, the tankers could not move about because the roads have been submerged, and there had been problem with the transportation of fuel, particularly PMS. And that was why Mr. Koronko was saying that, well, the water is receding. And it's not just the FCT, it's also come down south. In the whole of Bayelsa, the Bayelsa area, is the same problem that people are facing. And now Lagos also is experiencing this. So we need to be reminded, again, about the threat to the environment. We need to be reminded about the perennial problem of flooding and the inability to address the various dimensions of it. Because at the end of the day, it's not just agricultural farms that are affected. Because we've been saying because of the flooding this year, there will be an increase in the cost of food items. And that will have implications for the budget of households and the management of the challenge of poverty. Now we have seen fuel supply. With this scarcity that has occurred, there are persons who have said they've not been able to go to work. Because if there is no fuel, they won't be able to fuel their vehicles. Some are even having to pay higher transportation costs. And then the few stations where maybe they have stock, some of them are selling at between 200 naira and 250 naira. Although one example was given where, okay, they're still selling at 170, but do they have enough supply there? So the thing to do is to find a solution to it in the short term. The short-term solution, as has been suggested, is for perhaps the NNPC and the marketers to find alternative supply routes. Now, the logistics of that is something that they will have to work out. Since in the downstream sector, they are the ones who are involved in the business. But if they say there is supply, the problem has always been whether there is fuel or not. Now what we're dealing with is the fact that there is fuel, but supply is a problem. And look at the hardship that this supply gap is creating. But we have to take the word of the president of the Independent Petroleum Market as for it, and the assurance that has been given by the NNPC that this is going to be addressed quickly, and that the problem is already being addressed, and that soon we will begin to have fuel.
I mean, very, very well stated, Dr. Bati. The sad thing is the fact that we wait till things like this happen before we start to even think of the solutions themselves. So at first, when I saw the situation in Abuja, I was in Abuja a couple of weeks ago because of the flood, and I was shocked, and I kept on asking myself, so is it only via the road you can get in from Kogi to Abuja through that axis? How about a rail? Can't we have cargo rail to carry these same products up there? I mean, the colonial masters started building the rail line in 1896. They pretty much mapped it out how they wanted to use it to carry goods and services. We remember the good old days of crates being used to carry cattle from the north to the south via rail. So what happened to all of that? What happened? So is it only roads? So once the roads are short and flooded, can we probably use rail? Or would that be flooded too? Maybe some people make an argument like that. But at least if there's availability of an alternative route. Another one I'm probably thinking is, we've got big, huge water bodies in Nigeria. Can't we transport it via barges on the water bodies, to carry containers? Do we have specialized barges to be able to carry that from one point to another? What can we do to ameliorate this? And also, there are many even reasons in the first place. Some people are saying flood, some people are saying there's no supply at all, and all of that. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to hear, like the NNPC will come out to say, like they normally say, and they might prove me wrong on that, That, oh, we have enough, more than enough supply to go around. It's just a logistical interplay. Yes, we have a lot. We're a large oil-producing nation, but people still suffer from things like this. It is one problem or the other. How can we get better? Because from February to this time, we've had many problems as regards supply. We've had 2-3 fuel scarcities at the top of my head, if I can remember. So, what can we do to prevent all of this? Floods will always come. How can we guard against these things? At least we should make some preparation ourselves. I just hope when we'll have the next flood, we'll not be talking about fuel scarcity again. That's all on News Headline.